Hi, welcome to Get In, the software-defined vehicle podcast from BlackBerry. With this series, we're diving into what the future of transportation just might look like. So don't just stand there, get in. Hi, I'm Steve Kofsky, Editorial Director for BlackBerry. I'm very pleased to be here at CES 2023 in Las Vegas with a distinguished guest, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Charles Eagan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at BlackBerry, and it's wonderful to be speaking to someone in person.
It is.
All three dimensions.
What a treat that is.
Yes, absolutely.
And people have really turned out for this.
Yeah.
So CES is back, and BlackBerry, it really never went away, but we're back as well, and with some really exciting stories to tell. And a lot of it comes from the work that you and your team are doing. And we're seeing it all come to fruition. A big piece of it here with BlackBerry IVY,
yes,
which was incubated under your leadership at BlackBerry Labs, and Vito and some others have told us a little bit about their experience. But I'd love to hear yours and how BlackBerry came to be such an important player in automotive. This goes back decades, but so do you.
Yes,
right?
yeah, I go back many decades, but yeah, certainly the BlackBerry QNX. It was QNX at the time was heavily involved in the early automotive. So we have our 10,000 or 100,000 hours under our belt in terms of automotive technology, and then with the BlackBerry acquisition of QNX in 2011, it just accelerated. So BlackBerry QNX, in terms of functional safety, connectivity, high trust embedded operating system, it's just the perfect foundation with our safety certified hypervisor for an automotive rock solid platform to build on. And then you overlay that with the exciting partnership with Amazon, when Amazon, the origin story of BlackBerry IVY,
yes,
like any good superhero story,
yes,
Amazon and BlackBerry came together and said, together we can build a reference platform for the future that will serve this industry, because if we don't have ways of getting data off of vehicles in a private and secure way, and for people adding value outside of the automotive OEMs, it's very hard to do that in automotive. So we're very excited about this BlackBerry IVY partnership that is being demonstrated in many real ways today in the booth.
I'm really interested in, we were talking beforehand a little bit about some of the other companies that are also dabbling to some extent in automobiles. And I think the act of Amazon Web Services coming to BlackBerry and creating something completely new, when there was already Android for the car, and there was Mac OS for the car, and there was Windows for the car. None of those were able to achieve what they felt was needed, or what BlackBerry saw from its customers and heard from its customers was needed. Could you talk a little bit about that sort of competitive space and where we sit in it?
Yeah, there's very many point solutions, and these point solutions are very hard to sort of create momentum in the industry. So I think one of the challenges for software-defined vehicles is the software part. So how do we get software onto vehicles in an orderly way? Historically, it was always the automotive OEMs or the tier ones that were needed to do the software, but in that model, like we want to open up the software to the other 100% of the developers. I like to joke, like creating an ecosystem where you can provide content and value in a safe and secure way is something that is really important for this market to really thrive. When we first had mobile phones, and we started talking about app stores and ecosystems, I don't think we could have imagined the top 200 applications that would be absolutely essential on our mobile phones. Yeah. So I think we're in this blank canvas for the automobile today, and all these wonderful content creators will now have a way to bring their innovation into a platform without the automotive OEMs doing all this heavy lifting and integration. And even the potential of having applications that would work in different OEMs' automobiles or across different models, there's a high amount of reuse that's possible, which reduce costs, increase reliability, and makes it much more beneficial to the consumer because they have all these cool features that can be brought to their automobile. You know, we're at the cusp of the era where automobiles will start getting better over time versus degrading when you realize you've lost 20% of your investment off the lot and now it's starting to become dated. Cars will get better over time, much like our phones do. It comes as a blank canvas and then we add all this other cool technology. So this will be amplified in the automotive space.
Okay. Well, you're probably too kind to talk about what are some of the shortcomings of these other operating systems that have tried to layer on top of the automobile, but certainly they haven't reached the level of traction that one would hope or expect for those platforms within the OEM community, and certainly they haven't really lit a fire under the developer community. We haven't seen cars becoming the new smartphone with this previous generation of top layer software, and that's going to change now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I think there's some reasons for that, and maybe I'll go one more level less kind.
Yeah. Good.
It really builds on the functional safety. Like when you see this, this cyber skull on your infotainment system, that means a whole lot more when you have, a multi-ton vehicle doing 100 kilometers an hour. So everything that goes in the car has to go through this strict type approval, and you really need to be able to introduce features into a vehicle without compromising safety. The other thing that's becoming more and more apparent to people is the data privacy, and you own your data. That's not always the case in the mobile space, and that's going to become a lot more important when you're driving your precious commodities to various places. You want to know where that location is going, or your activities in your vehicle are being monitored. You want to make sure the minimal amount of data is being shared to get the maximal features that you want, but always with safety and privacy layered in. So that's very hard. That's been very hard for people to do in an environment where there wasn't a way to achieve that people could trust. I think creating ways to add applications in a trusted way is one thing that we're bringing with BlackBerry IVY, building on top of the BlackBerry QNX, which is on top of the BlackBerry hypervisor. So there's lots of layers of robust, industry tried and true infrastructure with which we want to build this future software-defined vehicle.
That really clarifies a lot of things, and my mind immediately went to the keynote that I attended last night from BMW, who's a great partner, and their focus on this car of the future, D, that was giving Arnold Schwarzenegger a hard time on stage last night at the Palms, is that it's going to become your trusted companion. This is I'm sorry, but the dog's sleeping outside now, and the car's coming into the living room.
Yes.
It talks to you, and it expresses your moods externally. That's a nice new feature that the car can be any color or combination of colors that you want with a flip of a switch now. Last year it was just black or white. Now it's gone, chromatic. But in order for this to come to fruition, it really is going to bring that privacy and security discussion to the forefront in a way that hasn't really occurred yet among consumers, at least. Mm-hmm. I think you have those discussions, and our teams have those discussions with the kind of folks that are leading the software-defined vehicle that we'll be honoring tonight at our Motor Trend inaugural event. But it hasn't really come into the consciousness of the consumer that they need to be aware of that.
Correct. I think there's a trend, and I think those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat it,
yes,
of trying to bolt on security after the fact. And we've learned a lot, like in the cyberspace, which is the other half of BlackBerry. My most positive thought is most cyber attacks that happen could be prevented because we have the knowledge. Now, why we don't do that is it's probably another discussion.
Yeah.
But not putting the underpinnings of cybersecurity into the software-defined vehicle, it will only take one breach for this massive tidal wave of, oh no, how do we protect this from a cyber point of view? Because cars are safe, and that was hard fought. And I think we need to make the software-defined vehicle just as safe, except we have 100 or 1,000 times more software going in. So we have tricks and practices and technologies that can help with that. And we'll be demonstrating some of that at CES 2023 on how some of our Silence AI technology can be applied to secure this software-defined vehicle of the future. So we're looking at ways that we can look at the combined cybersecurity skills and IoT safety, functional safety, performance skills, and create this connected software-defined vehicle or smart city or hospital or medical, whatever, like society will need this as it becomes more connected. But the software-defined vehicle is a real beacon of this initiative.
Yes, it's a crucible for it in many ways.
Yes.
Let's go into that subject of convergence between the Internet of Things and those things that already know that we know are targets, that we know are repositories of data, and that are better protected. And BlackBerry's role in trying to bridge that, which is really sort of another digital frontier that we're facing right now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We have a front row seat in the IoT space, in the connected smart city. We have a front row seat in the cybersecurity space. So we'd like to think that, combining those two perspectives gives us, a much better opportunity to create this safety net that's going to be needed. So people that are traditionally focused in IoT don't have this deep bench of threat hunting and threat prevention and detection and response and cloud-based XDR and all that great cybersecurity stuff. It turns out that a vehicle is dumping tons of data into the cloud, and that needs to be monitored. The parallels start to become apparent when you just squint a little bit. And so as the CTO at BlackBerry, my role isn't to sort of influence the roadmap of IoT or cyber. I like to joke I walk through walls. I get to work across all of them and see areas where this business unit's technology and this business unit's technology can either help each other or create a new capability. And using AI and machine learning in active cybersecurity monitoring in an automobile is an exciting requirement. We wouldn't think of having a laptop without cyber protection. I would like to think we wouldn't think of having a connected automobile with 10 times more cyber protection.
Yeah. I had a very deep discussion with my Uber driver about this last night, and history does keep repeating itself, unfortunately, that cybersecurity comes after the attack has done the damage and the frontline troops have fallen. Then let's bring them up from the rear. We need reinforcements. Is there any hope of really getting in front of it? Do you see that will among the car manufacturers, among the regulators, among those bodies that really define what goes into the vehicle? Are they starting to warm up to the idea?
Yeah, I think there's new awareness coming. Certainly the CISOs of the automotive companies are aware of it, and everyone is sort of building things, trying to build things in a secure way. It's more of a awareness with the consumer too. It's more of a dinner table conversation than it was 5 years ago. But certainly we can be paralyzed by complexity if we don't figure what are the good things to do. Like we can always say use multi-factor authentication or use good passwords. What's the equivalent in a software-defined vehicle? I think asking questions of how am I protected? How is my data being used? Just general awareness is a good starting point. And certainly all of the automotive OEMs and tier ones are looking to find novel technologies. There's a lot of exciting technologies on the peripheral coming in, to provide this safety. With the advent of 5G, we're not 10xing or 100xing the connectivity. We're bringing high bandwidth always on, almost always on connectivity to the automobile. So that's going to be a game changer as well, because the thin straw of data, it is not, what wasn't as critical. You couldn't do as much damage as quickly, but with more data. And I also think we can, each time there's a new technology revolution, we learn from how we did the previous one. So I think, in the way that mobile phones are more secure than laptops, vehicles will benefit from the knowledge learned from laptops and phones and networks, and so we've got some good tools in our tool belt. So I'm optimistic that we'll figure it out. It's also an industry that grows in a controlled manner. We didn't go from zero to autonomous vehicles where we use stats like how many 100 million miles of driving do we have on these platforms. These are large scale and need to be very carefully, the technology needs to be very carefully introduced. The challenge with it is it's very complicated.
Yes.
And it's very tightly coupled. And those are two hard things to manage. So we need our best partitioning and containment and detection. And I will do a small commercial for prevention.
Yes.
Some people don't try to do prevention because they don't believe that it's possible. But prevention is possible if you apply the right kind of technology. You can actually prevent yourself from having this chaotic reaction to the attack if you focus on prevention as a philosophy. We can greatly minimize the amount of chaos that will ensue.
I think there's a great deal that can happen by applying that in these systems that are real time. And some of our OEM partners who take our cybersecurity and embed it in their devices do so. They've looked at everything that's available, but they've chosen BlackBerry and the Cylance technology because it is the oldest artificial intelligence model and platform, and like biological intelligence, it turns out artificial intelligence also gets better with age. It gets smarter, it gets wiser.
Yeah.
But they're finding that they can embed this into devices that then are able to prophylactically stop attacks. And this is especially important in systems when you start looking at smart cities, at telecommunications, at vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to infrastructure, where things have to happen in real time. It's not enough to flag, oh, we've got an attack, let's bring out the incident response team and do forensics. You don't have weeks to respond, you've got seconds.
Yes, exactly. And this is why there's so much, so much focus on how control systems are run in a vehicle because of the high safety aspect. And if you need to be able to react in a very short period of time to get to a safer state, and you don't have all the answers. So I think that's something that you need to be very, very careful about. And this is why things like cybersecurity standards and safety standards are really important, so that it's not done. It's done at a high benchmark level across the industry, and I think that's what we're seeing in a number of different regions.
Yes, and when you said you were going to do a commercial, you just talked about the complexity of all of this, and I thought it was going to be a commercial perhaps for QNX, because a lot of QNX has that complexity isn't going away.
No,
it's doubling down. It's increasing exponentially, but through the hypervisor technologies and the ability to aggregate data in a form that can be used by third-party developers, and we've addressed a lot of those issues as well.
Yes.
So if you bake cybersecurity into the lower levels of that platform, then it's really freeing for those who are trying to deliver things that delight consumers.
Yeah, well, I'm a QNX fanboy. I started developing QNX in 1988. I was the VP of Engineering. Later, when BlackBerry acquired QNX, it is a fantastic technology, and it's a microkernel technology. That means all of the components are running in an isolated space, communicating with messaging, unlike Linux, where, for example, a device driver in Linux is running in kernel space, and if compromised, has full attack on the system. In QNX, the device drivers don't run in kernel space, everything is partitioned. And so if you want to contain something that is malicious, QNX is a wonderful platform. I'm always selling QNX, so sometimes I try to find other things to brag about. But it's been a constant theme of great technology that I've been super impressed with and I'm honored to work with.
Well, I have learned so much in this short conversation, and I'm so glad that you took the time to talk with us. Is there one key message that you'd like to leave people with that are viewing this maybe a little bit after this event, but looking forward to what does the future hold in 2023? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say look at the vehicle change that's happened over the last 3 to 5 years, and what we're going to see in the future. It's accelerating. So, the big future of the software-defined vehicle is in the software, and the big moves are going to happen in the next 5 years. So it's going to be an exciting place to watch, and it's going to start with things that you may not even notice: more driver assist, or more safety functionality, or there's just slightly more applications or convenience that are creeping in. It's not going to be a switch like that, but we're constantly evolving this platform. And I think if you watch the vehicles, the electrification is an exciting future, and the management of what those other applications that come into the vehicles. I think that's the place to watch, and some people might take it for granted, but I think the excitement is there. If you're a bit curious, I think you'll be very pleased with some of the functionality that you'll find in your car in the future.
Well, thank you for sharing your front row seat on these converging worlds of technology, and we really appreciate it, Charles.
Well, it's my pleasure, thank you.
And to the audience, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
That's the end of our episode for today. If you'd like more information on the topics or our guests, please check out blackberry.com/podcast. Get In, the Software-Defined Vehicle podcast, is available wherever you get your podcast, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with our latest episodes. Thanks for joining us.